You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today our show is going to be one centered on issues of race, because there's just been a whole bunch of stories that one have been popping up lately, and two we've been a little long in getting to. So we're gonna jump into those. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name's Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So again, this is going to be a show that touches on a whole bunch of subjects of race, UC admissions, hiring in Chicago, even selling jeans, and a mass shooting in New York City. But before we get into any of that, I want to start with our quote of the day, as we always do here, with something that's kind of relevant. And I think this helps to set the tone of the show. This one is from Thomas Sowell, and I recently found this quote, and I thought it was a really good one. Said, racism does not have a good track record. It's been tried out for a long time, and you think by now we'd want to put an end to it instead of putting it under new management. And I feel like that's what the Democrats have done. Is I think we've all come to see since at least the 60s, everybody seems to be getting on the same page that racism is not such a good idea, but some people just don't want to let it go and maybe want to reorient it. What do you guys think about this quote?
Well, I think Soul is so. Tim, you want to go? That's fine. That'll be fine. You want to go? Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Who doesn't love Thomas Sowell? Well, I don't know. Maybe there are people that don't love Thomas Sowell.
Maybe some racists out there. No.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I can't figure that one. But yeah, I mean, does not have a good track record. So yeah, I agree. I guess it's trying to, definitely now we have reverse racism. And so, it's now under new management. Now that, white people are to be discriminated against, Asians apparently, especially in UC admissions. But anyway, let's talk about that later. Leon, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I just want to comment on something you just said. You used the expression. You use the expression reverse racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism, Tim. Racism is racism, regardless of the direction it goes. Okay, because by saying reverse racism implies, it's like implying that a car could only drive forward. Okay, no, racism goes both ways. It happens all the time, especially in the last 20, 30, 40 years. With all this affirmative action kind of stuff. But before getting into all that,
I sit corrected.
Okay, very good, very good. Martin Luther King said and made quite clear that he dreamed of the day that his children, his 4 little children, will live in a society where they are judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And everybody on the left have embraced Martin Luther King and his supposedly his words. But yet we have this new management, as Thomas Sowell put it, of racism. Well, in the 60s and in the 70s, it was affirmative action. Well, affirmative action became unpopular. And of course, affirmative action was just warmed over Jim Crow. Well, that became a little bit unpopular. The whole word affirmative action became somewhat of a pejorative. So they came up with a new name now. They came up with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Listen to the nice words, things that nobody will disagree with until you lift up the hood and you look and you smell the rot that is under that hood. It's straight up racism. Okay, straight up. It's just who they're discriminating against have now changed. First it was Jews and blacks, and now it is whites and Asians. Well, Trump came along, and Trump now decided, well, this DEI, whatever the hell it is, or whatever the hell they want to call it, is not good, and it doesn't work. It's not going to work for America. So he decided that he wanted to get rid of it, and he's doing everything he can to do so. Well, all of a sudden we started to hear about belonging and engagement or some kind of nonsense like that. A new name, new management of racism. But this thing, no matter what you do, it never seems to go away because somehow or the other, the race grifters in our society have decided that this is their path to wealth and notoriety. Because we have people like Ibram X. Kendi, we have people like Jesse Jackson. Well, Jesse Jackson kind of out of the picture right now. I understand he's sick. God bless him. But Al Sharpton is quite well and profiting from this racial grift that is going on. And every time we try to take a step forward, we always have to end up with 2 steps back because these people are out there and so quite handily supported by a whole cadre of white liberals trying their very best to keep this thing alive. The one thing that Martin Luther King told us, the one thing he told us, that we want to get to the society where we are judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. And no one on the left these days want to get there because having victims in our society is a good thing for them. It's a wealthy thing for them. And they want to keep this gravy train running for as long as possible.
So unity for the Democrats and division of the rest of us.
Exactly.
That's what's going on here. Yeah. No, it's terrible, because usually racism is kind of like an irrational bias, and it just, obviously to be free means that you should be free to be irrational, but we want to keep this out of our government for sure in every possible means, because we don't have a choice of whether or not we participate with our government. So we want to keep that irrational bias out. And, if somebody's irrational in the marketplace, well, they're going to suffer for it. So,
Quite true.
So there's ways to guard against it there as well. But anyways, let's find out some of what's going on.
But before you go on, Jason, the one thing that we have to really highlight: racism could only exist when it's a government either actually implementing it or the government tolerating it. Slavery was legal. Slavery was all legal. And Jim Crow was all legal. And those were straight up racist acts continuously happening for hundreds of years. Well, Jim Crow was about 100 years. Slavery was about 300 or 400 years prior to that. Well, slavery was there since the founding of the Republic until the Civil War. But the fact of the matter is, it's only government can keep these things going. It's only the government could have kept Jim Crow in place for 90 years. It's only the government that could have kept slavery in place for however long, since the founding of the Republic until 1865 or so. The fact of the matter is, the government is the biggest proponent of racism in our society, and they're still doing it, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yep. It's a great way to divide people, that's for sure.
For sure.
So let's look at a few of the stories now about how this has been playing out recently. I mean, there's always a wealth of stories, but these 4 I think are kind of interesting. The first of which is a story about the UC system and some of the race nonsense that's been going on there. So we've been seeing some, lawsuits play out over the last 4 years, maybe 5 years, so around the time, COVID hit, issues with the SATs. And now, and that was mostly, I think, people representing Black and brown groups, I guess is the best way to describe it, who were saying that the SATs were biased, and therefore they wanted the SATs gone. And so now, because that objective metric of how people score on a test is gone, now suddenly Asians are scoring well on tests, and they're kind of being pushed. So this is the problem. So let me play a video that's going to show a little bit about a background about that case. And another interesting aspect to this at the end of the video too, and I tacked this on, but is the way that the guy is pushing the case, and he's using AI, and I just thought that was an interesting aspect to the story too. So anyways, let me play the video for you.
You may recall the ABC7 story that went viral 16 months ago. A Palo Alto teen hired straight out of high school by Google as a PhD-level software engineer, yet he was rejected by most colleges he applied to, including 5 UC campuses, even with a 4.4 GPA and a 1590 out of 1600 on the SATs.
Some of them were certainly expected, you know, Stanford, MIT, you know, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, for some of them, like Cal Poly, some of the state schools, I really thought, you know, I had a good chance.
His name, Stanley Jong, and he and his father just filed a lawsuit against the University of California and the U.S. Department of Education. The Jongs allege that UC is engaging in racial discrimination in admissions despite the law banning the use of race in the process.
Of course, this incident with the UC came on the heels of the Supreme Court's decision against Harvard a few years ago, in which they found that Harvard was systemically discriminating against Asians and whites. In fact, it was so pervasive that Harvard had developed new metrics in order to get the racial mix they want, and they assign personality scores, or personal rating rather, and of course blacks and Latinos somehow all managed to score higher on personal ratings, whereas Asians scored lowest. Of course, this followed a lawsuit that was brought against the UC system, I think it was about 4 years ago, where a group of students said that SAT scores, which should be an objective measure, they claimed those were biased because essentially blacks and Latinos were scoring lower. Not people who were coming from out of the country. They didn't score lower. It was simply domestic people who fell into those categories that were scoring lower. And so, of course, they took away the SAT scores, and of course now they're biased in the other direction.
The suit was filed in late 2019 on behalf of students and associations and advocates who were fighting the use of the SAT and the ACT for admissions to the UC system. The state of California and the UC system talked about diversity as an objective, but in fact it was one of the least diverse systems in the United States.
The SAT and the ACT violate the 14th Amendment. Those constitutional rights require equal access to opportunities afforded by the government and by the state.
The SAT and the ACT have not been validated for students with disabilities. We don't actually know what the test is saying about that student.
One other aspect that I thought was interesting about this case is that the parents are actually, they're not getting much in the way of legal assistance. And there was an interview that one of the father did with California Insider, and he talks about this, and I encourage you to go check it out. But he talks about how essentially most of the people who might do this pro bono really weren't that interested, just because they didn't see there being a huge chance in California because of the judges, is how he explained it. So they had to do this on their own, and so they're doing it almost all with AI, and I thought that was really interesting.
That's the kind of a social pressure the student's going to be on.
So you end up suing without a lawyer.
That's right. We actually sued 4 universities.
And you were told that there's no chance you have.
So our lawsuits are heavily assisted and drafted and polished by using AI. So I have no idea how to write a legal document, but I was telling the AI, I was telling ChatGPT and telling Gemini, hey, look at the SFA legal case, look at their complaint, and here's the facts about our case against the University of California, write a complaint. And then within minutes, it gave me a skeleton. So we'll see. It's clearly a David versus Goliath situation, but maybe we'll have a sling in our pocket, and that's AI.
So anyways, that's the story. Yeah, I wish I had kind of polished that part about the SAT thing, but I just wanted to show that that was something that was literally a legal decision that went in the other way that has caused a lot of this problem with the switch in emissions. So anyways, what do you guys think about these stories? I just think there's so much interesting going on here, especially the AI aspect. I love that, because us normal citizens now have, it seems like, a legal access to go up against Goliath government there. But anyways, what do you guys think?
A lawyer, literally a lawyer in our pocket, huh?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting because he said that there was some real high-powered lawyers that the UC has going up against them. And I couldn't show the whole interview there, but just the aspect that he said, look, this is giving them a fighting chance. They're actually able to, he said, almost all their legal work with AI. So anyways.
No, but yeah, well, hey, any port in a storm. Good luck. I don't know how that's going to come out. It's an interesting case to follow, though.
This AI is fundamentally changing so many things. Just as a personal level, before I get to my remarks on this particular issue, the other day I asked AI to write a grant for me, and within 3-4 minutes, I had a whole grant written out for me. It was unbelievable. But getting to the story here at hand, this thing is a real problem. Okay, it's really a problem. These universities coming up with these metrics, God know what part of the anatomy they pull them from, and they coming up and telling us this thing will somehow better measure the performance of a student at the university level. And this metric, somehow or the other, this metric that they come up with, somehow or the other, kick out the best students, the people who are scoring really high on the SAT, and it takes in people who are scoring lower on the ACT or the SAT. You could see the thing is upside down. Something is wrong with just looking at it at its very surface level. You could see something is wrong with the metric. What about just going back to merit? What about that? Why is that such a complicated issue? But you see, the problem is Black and brown students in this country, okay? Black and brown students in this country are suffering in some of the most horrible schools you could think about anywhere in the world, okay? Some of them are more horrible than you could ever imagine. And when these people graduate from high school, some of them are graduating and they probably could not even read the diploma that is being handed to them. This is a total condemnation of our public school system. The problem then comes, some of these students, not all of them obviously, some of these students want to go to the next level, to higher education. And these universities now, these bean counters think, well, we have to give everybody a chance. Oh, the 14th Amendment is bullshit. Oh, excuse me. That woman was talking about equal access on the 14th Amendment. I don't know where the hell she got that from. And wherever she got her law school degree from, she should take it back. The fact of the matter is there's no such guarantee in the 14th Amendment. There's no such thing, okay? Equality under the law is different from equal access as she phrased it. But the point is, though, the public schools are doing this great disservice to the students, and then the universities are turning around and doing a further disservice to some of these students by putting them into situations where they are not competitive. So instead of having a student who could have done successfully well at a little state school or something like that, or stuff like that, who could have done really well, they pull them up now into like a UC system, into some of the better UC campuses, or into Harvard and Yale and all of these places and stuff. Next thing you know, the 6 years will come by, they don't have a degree, and everybody, oh my goodness gracious, a different kind of racism. They don't want these students here. That's why they're giving them bad grades. No, these students came in and they don't have what it takes to be successful. Now, some of them do, but many of them don't. And the students who, like mostly Asian students, white students, who do have the standards to meet the competitiveness at a Harvard or a Yale or UCLA or UC Berkeley, they don't want them because they're the wrong skin color or the wrong whatever. I don't know what they say for Asians. They don't say skin colors, whatever the hell their matrix is. Oh, they don't have the personality trait. Like if these people have some sort of godlike power to figure these things out, what the hell is wrong with these people that we just cannot go back to merit? This is what got us here. Look at where we are today. It's merit that got us here, and we need to go back to it.
Yeah.
Doesn't it remind you of that segment we did on the air traffic controllers not hiring the people with skills, and they changed the whole parameter? Remember, a few years back, they changed the parameters, and they had all these psychological things come in, and nothing to do with moving your skills and your abilities to move little blips on a radar screen and keep them from running into one another. So, so as a result, they've got they've hired a whole bunch of people that just don't know what they're doing and never will. They just don't have the skills, and so they're in trouble now. And so here we are. Oh gosh, got planes getting close to each other. I wonder why.
Yeah. Look at
Anyway,
what those. Yes.
yeah. So anyway, it just reminds me of the same thing.
Well, it's kind of sad. Well, go ahead, Leon.
But this bean content, this bean content is so ridiculous that it leaves us astonished by what is happening to many of these students on these campuses. It makes decent students who could be successful elsewhere, make them into failures, and they essentially ruin their lives. Okay, ruin their lives because, well, they can't make it at Harvard and Yale. Oh my goodness gracious, well, I can't make it anywhere else. And how many people probably have gone through that, where they get into these universities, they're not at that level, and then when they could have done so great someplace else, and
it's even more to condemnation of how bad our government K through 12 schools are, and they're covering it up by screaming racism instead of letting competition fix those schools. We've got this terrible government system, and then we paper that over by just crying racism so that we can change the results of what comes out of those schools. And it's just terrible. It's one bad thing after another.
It's almost like they don't want to take responsibility for their bad results at the public schools.
Exactly.
They want to, instead of taking responsibility and improving the results, they want to just go ahead and change the parameters of the applications to go higher along in the educational chain. Sounds that way, huh?
Yes, it sure does. And the funny thing about this, math is a big part of the SAT. Okay, I have done it, and I'm sure Jason, I'm sure all you guys have probably done SAT and ACT, or the ACT. Math is a big part of it. I have taught math on and off, I don't know, for about 50 years now, on and off for 50 years to people from God knows how many parts of the world. I'm not sure about that, but it's been a lot. But the point is, though, I have never had a student in my class, in one of my classes, that say, Mr. Brathwaite, back home, we just do it a little different here, Calculus is not the way it's here in America, or algebra is a little bit different there or stuff. I have never had that experience. Math is a universal language. It's like music. But these idiots, instead of looking at, a student is performing substandard on a math test, instead of looking at the root cause, like a crappy public school, say for instance, instead of looking at that, no, it's just like you said, Jason, racism. The test is biased. That's why the student is scoring so poorly. Tell me, how could 1 and 1 equal 2 be biased? Maybe somebody could explain that to me, because I don't understand it. How could calculus be biased? How? I was 14 years old when I started learning calculus. I wish I could have gone and tell my father, Dad, I can't learn, because.
Well, and we didn't even talk about it on this show. I'd have to go drag it up, but we talked about this on prior shows, where the California Department of Education was trying to shove in these concepts of racist math and stuff.
Exactly.
Absolutely nuts, and the best way that you can tell that this is just all a sham is look at the way foreign students score on these tests when they come in. When they come in and they take these, they score as well or better than our domestic students. and they should be at the biggest disadvantage. If this is a culturally disadvantaging test, the people who don't even live in this country should be at the biggest disadvantage. And
Exactly.
they do tend to just underperform a tiny bit in English, but not in math.
Not in math.
they blow us away in math. So
yeah. They just leave us at the starting line. Leave us at the starting line in math. Okay? All right? God.
Well, I had wanted to get to the Brandon Johnson hiring story second, but because of the length of the video, I'm going to push that off to the third story. We're going to get into a story about Sydney Sweeney's jeans because that seems to be taking the internet by storm. So let me pull up that video and we can just squeeze that in before we have to break for public access.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has her genes.
So there was the Sydney Sweeney provocative pun on jeans. And of course, it's not a racist thing to say that somebody may be beautiful because of their genes. I mean, we're all different because of our genes. So it's just nuts. But because she's white, somehow that's a problem. Ultimately, we'll find out how well this ad does in the marketplace, and that'll tell the story of whether or not it was a successful campaign. But it should be noted that the woke are out there pushing their own propaganda through advertising campaigns, and it's not going quite so well for them. If you'll remember, about a year ago, Jaguar did a very odd advertisement that prompted Elon Musk to wonder whether it was even a car commercial. Let's take a look at that one. Moments later.
According to an auto industry report, Jaguar registered just 49 cars in Europe during the entire month of April. Guys, that's down 97.5% compared to last year, where they sold nearly 2,000 cars. Between January and April, sales dropped 75% versus the same time last year. And Bloomberg claims the brand has effectively gone dormant since rebranding and ditching all of its gas-powered models. Lydia, as Charlie says, go woke, go broke.
So that's kind of the theme, right? This absolutely picking apart these commercials to try and find everything under a woke lens. But if you want to hear what we have to say about it, you're going to have to catch it. If you're watching on public access, you're going to have to come online to catch the rest of the conversation. But anyways, back to the show. So what do you guys think about this?
Oh gosh, yeah. I wish I knew more about Jaguars. So they ditched all internal combustion engines for all electric. Is that what Jaguar did?
Yes, they did. Yes.
I think
and then
so.
their sales plummeted 75%. So, well, okay. That's just a duh moment. That's like, okay, what did you expect?
But not only that, I mean, look at that commercial, Tim. There wasn't even a car in it.
Yeah. The name Jaguar appeared at the end, but there was no Jaguar in the commercial. All we saw is these androgynous people walking about doing what I don't even know what was the point of that commercial. I saw that commercial run. I didn't even know what the hell it was about until at the end I saw Jaguar, and I still didn't make the connection.
Yeah. And they're wearing clothes that they wouldn't be caught dead in public. Okay, those models in that ad, they wouldn't be caught dead wearing those things in public. I mean, that's just the most ludicrous getup I've ever seen. Maybe if you're on your way to a Halloween party, that's maybe okay, sure, but anywhere else, no, that's unbelievable. Well, anyway, okay. Well, maybe maybe Jaguar. That's the beauty of the marketplace, is that you live or die with the marketplace, and it's justified. It's not unjust. It's totally justified. So we'll see if Jaguar can come up with a justified response to their predicament that they find themselves in.
Well, but
Well, they
more to
have-
the point, Jim, also, I just want to jump in too. We'll see how Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle do with their jeans too, because that's also taking a risk in the marketplace. The pun that they used, and we'll see how that does too. I mean, a lot of people are just losing their minds over this, and it just seems like, why? I mean, they talk about straw manning instead of steel manning. You know, you make a jeans pun, and suddenly that means you're a Nazi. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I'll say in defense of American Eagle, I believe it's the company who had Sydney Sweeney. The one thing I would say in defense of them, they're not being woke, and I hope they don't have to go woke to try to please anybody, because all they were doing was advertising a pair of jeans, and they had a pun on the play on these words, jeans, the J versus jeans, the G. That was all they were trying to do, and I hope they don't backtrack on this, because it's a nice commercial. I mean, I don't care much for Sydney. I don't think she's much of an actress or whatever the hell she is. I don't care much for her, but I don't see nothing wrong with it with the commercial. But these people, you know, honestly, these people on the left, they should donate their brain to science so they could understand how these people's brain work. Because I think it don't work, quite frankly, but they're still walking around. So there's something here, something special about these people that they should donate, that we should try to find out. Because these people are absolutely insane. When I say insane, I mean they are totally and absolutely insane. You want to tell me we have a jeans commercial, a J I'm talking about, jeans commercial with a halfway decent looking woman, probably some people will say beautiful woman, wearing jeans, and they had a little play on the words, and all of a sudden you have lost your mind. You're having a psychotic moment because there's this play on these words, this jeans and jeans and jeans, and all of a sudden you can't deal with it. It's been triggering to you. Your brain should be donated to science. This is madness on steroids.
Are you saying you're in favor of the government funding this research, this brain research here, Leon? You want them to take your tax money and put it to that use?
Hey, Tim, I don't care who funded it, okay? But somebody need to fund it, because we really need to find out about this. We really do. This is insanity.
Yeah, you sound like you're in favor of it, funding the research with your own tax money. Okay.
Well, I think it will be an important contribution to society. It's enough of an important society that I really don't care who fund this research. I really do. We need to find out these people brain work, man. I really do. I really want to find out.
Okay.
I'll take government money to do it, even though I'm so dislike government touching anything I do or anything or society. But I'll even take government money to do this. That it is that important.
Remember, government money is your money.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. Taxpayer dollars. I should say taxpayers dollars to do it. Yes.
I'm sorry. If you look at that Jaguar commercial, that looks like the result of a PSYOP, which means it was our government money anyway. Going and generating. I mean, how on earth did you generate that through the marketplace?
Yeah.
And so when Elon Musk asked the question, Jaguar, do you sell cars? I mean, he's obviously the answer is now, well, if you want to call 49 cars selling cars, we do. But compared to last year, no, we don't really sell cars now.
But you see, the same damn nonsense happened with Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney, Mulvaney or something like that. So Dylan Mulvaney is this transgender woman, and if you could call her that. And Bud Light thought this was the only woman in America that is worthy of selling our beer. Okay? And well, their stock came crashing down, and we know the result of that. And this is what is probably going to happen to Jaguar too, and all of these other woke organizations who think they'll put wokeness before their bottom line. I'm just happy to see them crash with their damn nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, if they're just going to sell electric cars, they're not long for this earth.
No,
as a company.
they're not. They're not.
Well, and I think that was part of what I'm not sure if I was freezing up there, but I think that was part of the what was going on with these ESG scores is that so it's environmental social governance, I think is what it's called.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, and that's sort of why some of these weird commercials are coming into place. It's because companies get we're getting some kind of extra consideration through the investments of the big what do they call that, the big retirement funds from the state governments like California. If they were doing some of these different things, whether it be pushing climate change or maybe some kind of equity stuff on race or gender or whatever it is, and that was giving them some extra consideration in what was being invested in, which is the government tampering in the markets at that place. So it's not completely a private choice necessarily with all these companies that are getting into this stuff. So yeah,
it's true. It's true. well, we know what has happened when the government touches anything. So we know.
Yeah, it's the not the Midas, the reverse Midas touch.
The anti-Midas touch. The anti-Midas
turns everything into a turd. So, well, speaking of, I guess, somebody who doesn't have the Midas touch, and that is Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago. And he is having some issues with the Justice Department coming after them for their hiring practices. Now, he has said all kinds of crazy stuff, but this one finally drew the attention of the Justice Department. Maybe some of the others should have, but it wasn't the Trump administration. And then, but let's find out what this story is about, because it has to do with the hiring practices in Chicago and his blatant advertising that he considers race in his hiring.
The U.S. Department of Justice opening up a civil rights investigation into the city of Chicago, the DOJ specifically looking into the city's hiring practices. This comes after remarks Mayor Brandon Johnson made at the Apostolic Church of God in Woodlawn yesterday, where Mayor Johnson shared his vision for the rest of his term, emphasizing education, public safety, and equity. Johnson also saying his administration is one of the most diverse in the city's history.
So let's go see what Mayor Johnson said that was so problematic.
So when we say our people hire our people, I just want to name this. 2 administrations ago, 70 to 75% of the administration is primarily made up of white and white men. In my administration, 45% of my administration is black, 25% is Latina, 30% is white, 8% is Asian. It is the most diverse administration in the history of Chicago.
So right away, we can see that what Mayor Brandon Johnson considers diversity is purely skin color. And it's also interesting to note, too, that the population in Chicago, I believe, is around 30% black, maybe a little less. And he is saying that now he's proud that 45% are black, which means that they are overrepresented. And again, what does this mean for diversity? I mean, if he had all black, would that be diversity? I mean, it's really hard to understand what these people mean by diversity, which is why a lot of times this is nonsense.
And here's why I'm naming this. Is because there are some detractors that will push back on me and say, you know, the only thing that the mayor talks about is the hiring of black people. No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet. I don't know too many cultures that have play cousins. That's how generous we are. We just make somebody a family member, right? That's just how we are.
He literally just said that now black people are the most charitable people, I think is what he said, which, again, this is racist to attribute an ideological quality only to one skin color. That is just nuts. And we see Mayor Brandon Johnson just diving headfirst into this. Let's go on and see how he hangs himself even further.
And so Business and Economic Neighborhood Development, the deputy mayor, is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development, is a black woman. Infrastructure, deputy mayor, is a black woman. Chief operations officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man. And I'm laying that out because when you ask how do we ensure that our people get a chance to grow their business, having people in my administration that will look out for the interest of everyone, and everyone means you have to look out for the interests of black folks, because that hasn't happened. That's how we ensure long-term sustainable growth.
Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon stating in the letter in part, if these kinds of hiring decisions are being made for top-level positions in your administration, then it begs the question whether such decisions are also being made for lower-level positions. Already reaction coming in from City Hall leaders.
Hearing what he said and seeing this this investigation taking part, unfolding today, I think validates the concerns many people have throughout the city of Chicago that this isn't a mayor for everyone.
And so there you have it. Brandon Johnson, you get a big step up on the ladder just by showing your skin color, I guess, when you go in. Well, what do you guys think about this?
Well, we know one thing for sure. Chicago is one of the worst run cities in America. So whatever it is that Brandon Johnson is doing in terms of his high-end practices, obviously is not working. So whether he talk about all this racist nonsense about black people being the most generous people in the world, or whatever garbage he spoke, or about black people always looking out for everybody else, or whatever racist garbage he wants to speak about, the fact of the matter is your city is in serious crisis, where they're talking about education, where they're talking about crime, where they're talking about general budgeting in the city. All of those metrics are in very, very bad shape. The man is grossly incompetent. He's a good talker, but that's all it is. And this city that called Chicago is a disaster. And he wanted to tell us that his high-end practices, the people who are actually running the city, his high-end practices are achieving something. What it is that he's trying to tell us that this high-end practice is achieving, what other than gross incompetence?
Yeah, I'm not sure where he gets that comparison of generosity amongst different racial makeups. I'm not sure where he gets that data. Who's the most generous? I mean, is that in what parameters is he coming up with that? I mean, is he just saying it? What do you think, Leon? I think he's just saying it just off the top of his head, has absolutely nothing whatsoever to back it up.
Okay, Brandon Johnson's a racist, okay? You don't have to look far to figure out where he got that from, okay? He's nothing but a loudmouth, smooth-talking racist, a grifter of the highest order. There's no need to look very deep to figure this out. The man is worthless, quite frankly. I mean, maybe the city of Chicago deserve this, the mess that they're in right now, because they elected this man. So maybe they deserve it. So I mean, you just left astonished by the madness that these people like Brandon Johnson comes up with. Another one who should probably donate his brain to science so that we could figure out how that brain works. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, Leon, you said he was a good talker, and I mean, I want to qualify this. I'm not an expert in this area, but if I had to guess, if I had to guess that any particular politician was retarded, I think this guy might be retarded. He's hanging himself on when he speaks publicly. He sits there and he just says this stuff out loud, like somehow he doesn't think that's going to come back on him when he's saying that somehow he attributes different qualities to people on skin color. And I mean, we're not even talking about something that's like objective, like maybe if he had said that about watching the Chicago Bulls and making a statement about basketball or something. We're talking about the way people think. How on earth can he even does he? There's nothing to measure this on. It's just nuts.
Well, okay, Jason, let me rephrase my statement. He is very articulate in his stupidity. How about that? Okay, all right.
He talked himself into a hole, that's for sure.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. And he think now that the Justice Department is investigating him, he think he can talk his way out of that hole too. Because like I said, he is very eloquent and very articulate in his stupidity. But we'll see. We'll see.
I didn't think it was possible to get a worse mayor after Lori Lightfoot. And
Oh, yes.
my gosh, I mean, I think they'd take Lori Lightfoot back in a heartbeat.
Yeah. This man makes Lori Lightfoot look like the most competent mayor we ever had in America. That is what this man is doing for Chicago.
Yeah. But by the way, too, it's just a side. He has just really damaged the Chicago education system there, too. He came from the teachers union, and I guess that was a big plus for the Chicago's teachers union. Well, they voted for pay raises, I guess, that they had no money for. And the board, literally, it was one of these crazy situations where the board was standing up against him and wasn't going to approve it. So he summarily fired everybody on the board and replaced them all with hand-picked people so that they could get their raises, even though there was no money for them. So that's the kind of lunatic this guy is, and it's just really doing bad things for Chicago. So, but
you deserve you deserve the government you vote for. So that's what Chicago voted for. Here it is.
Well, I think this takes us to our Knucklehead Noise Patrol now, and so that's something that just recently happened, and maybe Tim might have a little bit of interest in this one, because this one was one of a shooter that happened in New York City, but they had a case where somebody came in and tragically wound up shooting up some floors on a building and killing about 4 or 5 people, but for some reason CNN had to inject race into the story in a bizarre way. And so I'm going to play the video here just so you can kind of see what was going on.
Showing you here to John's reporting that they do know what he looks like, male, possibly white, mustache, sunglasses, in that building, isolated to, they believe, to various locations, including upper floors, is where they're focused. What are you learning, Shimon? All right, so Brian, stay with us. The former deputy director of the FBI, Andy McCabe, is with us as well. And Andy, I just want to ask you talk about a 44-story building, as Brian is reporting, and what John Miller just said. There were a few things that really stood out there. Among them, that they do know what he looks like. Sunglasses, mustache, male, possibly white.
So there you go. Here's the picture that the police were circulating during that time. And this was an active situation that CNN was reporting on. And they are playing games with the race of the suspect, which is super important, right? Because it's one thing to play games after it's not an incident, and you can just say it's in poor taste or whatever. But this is like, you see the guy and you say, oh, I see him with a gun, but don't worry, he's not he's not white. Just let him go. We're looking for a white guy. But this was the guy. This was the person, and he went in. There was a side issue here too. I guess he was looking for an NFL office that was in this one building, and I guess he was suffering from CTE, which is a concussion disorder. And he wound up getting off at the wrong floor, I think, and shooting up an office that had nothing to do with that before he got to the NFL office, I guess. But yeah, I mean, this is just nuts, that CNN is so focused on race that they say probably white when there's nothing to indicate that. Well, what do you guys think about this? This just seems nuts.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think they said possibly white. Correct.
Oh yeah, possibly white.
Possibly.
Why didn't say possibly anything else? Why it was possibly white?
Yeah, good question. I would definitely not. I mean, I guess he could have some white blood in his background, his ancestry somewhere.
He might be like Elizabeth Warren,
Oh yeah, of course.
You mean Pocahontas according to Trump?
Yeah, but I think the police were probably describing him as a black male, about X feet tall and so on and so forth, carrying a rifle. So it's crazy. And again, I mean, CNN, of course, they're the ones that really helped lie us into the war in Iraq, and got caught red-handed, deliberately lying. So who listens to them now? I mean, if anybody, this shouldn't be newsworthy because who would be listening to CNN at this point?
Obviously, enough people for them to keep pushing their racial grifting. I don't know if you guys remember who George Zimmerman was. He was a guy who got in an altercation with Trayvon Martin, and ended up shooting Trayvon Martin and killing him. He was acquitted of the shooting. But the New York Times brought about a new racial category. George Zimmerman was described in the New York Times as a white Hispanic. It's the same sort of thing that CNN is trying to do right now. They are trying to show us that these white devils among us are the biggest problem. That's what they're trying to show us. There's only white people. There's only whiteness. It even goes back to this ad that we were just watching from Sydney Sweeney. Here we have whiteness on display, Nazi propaganda. And you know what Nazi, blonde eye, blue eye, they're trying to form the master race kind of thing. It's the white devils they're trying to show us. And you know who they're trying to show that to? They're trying to show it to us. They're trying to keep us as nice little victims who will end up voting for the Democratic Party. Because as long as they have us as victims, oh my goodness, they can't lose. So all they're trying to do here is to show, this whiteness in our society is the biggest problem. It's a whiteness that caused this guy to walk in there and shoot up the place. It's a whiteness that caused George Zimmerman to kill Trayvon Martin. It's a whiteness that caused Sydney Sweeney to get on TV and tell us about her genes, whether it was the J in the genes or the G in the genes, it really doesn't matter. Blonde hair, blue eye, would have to be part of the master race. It's the white devils they're trying to show us. These people are so good and wonderful. I just love them, I really do.
That there is one flip side to this particular story too, and that's that aside from trying to make it sound like the shooter might have been white, which is just bizarre. But you have this situation that occurs in a lot of news reporting when there's an active situation, like maybe there's a thief or maybe a violent person on the loose. And sometimes when the woke media knows what the description of the person is, they won't say the race if it goes
exactly
into the narrative. So, I mean, which is really dangerous to society when you're messing with the descriptions in an active situation that result in potentially people's safety. The idea that you're going to play dumb about the victim or about not the victim, but the perpetrator's race is just crazy. So I even think the Young Turks made kind of an issue about that too, and they're sort of a lefty organization, and they I think it was Anna, I can't remember her name, who's the
Kasparian, Anna Kasparian.
Yeah, I think she had made note about that too, where she was just getting thinking that this was getting kind of ridiculous, the way that the left was constantly controlling what came out in these reports and stuff. It's just nuts. So,
but you see, this is what they do though. If the person is white or possibly white, of course they'll have to promote that. They'll promote it possibly white or white Hispanic. And
nope. Looks like Leon might have frozen. So maybe CNN got to his speed.
Maybe. Yeah. That's probably what happened. Definitely.
Leon was blowing the lid off the whole thing. Oh, Leon, you froze there.
Oh yeah. Your eloquence has been cut off by CNN operatives.
No, I was going to say, on the other hand, I think I got out the first part of it. If it's a white person, they'll clearly promote it as here it is. If it's non-white, they normally try to suppress that. They will not try to give a race description. If you look at some of the reporting that we have from CNN or some of the or MSNBC, for non-whites, they'll try to suppress the race description. For whites, We got to put it out. You know, we got to let everybody know whiteness is a problem in America. It's really a problem in America. So we got to put that out quick.
Yeah. Tim, I see you're trying to send something on trends on race and ethnicity, but it don't really looks like too big of a document to try and unless you've got the summary of it here.
No, I was just doing that for you guys. That was yeah, I don't think it's too big of a document, but anyway, there's a number of graphs and this seems like a legitimate study, and yeah, it doesn't support that the mayor's it doesn't support what the mayor was saying.
No,
in fact, it disputes it quite thoroughly.
Oh, about his hiring practices or
no,
generosity?
About generosity, generosity rates. I mean, not that there's none. I'm not saying that. It's just it's
not a bold-faced thing about yes, exactly the most generous race ever. Somehow melanin affects your generosity.
Correct. Yeah. Somehow I don't know how.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of nonsense, I guess, that you get out of woke culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, unless either of you guys have any other thoughts, I think that's just about a wrap here.
I have one thought.
Okay.
So in fairness, I corrected Tim about something at the beginning of the show. And Jason, so in fairness, I have to also correct you on something you said. You spoke about overrepresented. I don't understand that word, okay? Because you're talking about Brandon Johnson and the fact that I think he had 45%, he said, blacks in his administration, and I think the population of blacks in Chicago is 33%. Listen, I don't understand this word overrepresented. We are all human beings. So regardless of who have the job or who don't have the job, if nobody's overrepresented. If you qualify for the job and you can do the job, there's no such thing as overrepresented, underrepresented. If you qualify to enter a university under some standard, whatever the standard is, as long as it's based on merit, nobody's overrepresented, underrepresented. We're all human beings, and we're all Americans. Well, for the most part, we're all Americans, except for those illegal aliens trying to tell us they should get rights. We are all Americans here. Okay, so I don't know that. I don't understand this overrepresented or underrepresented thing. I really don't.
Well, Leon, I completely agree with your feelings there. The only reason I brought it up was because Brendan Johnson had had tried to lay out a metric that he had the most diverse administration. And what the heck does that mean? And if he's measuring it apparently based upon skin color, because that's what he said. I have 45% black. I have 30% white. I have, well, I mean, so the point is, if you're going to call that diverse, then what does it even mean? And so I think at least the only kind of sensible baseline is to just go and say, well, at the very least, we can say, how many people do you have of that group in society? And are you anywhere near that? That would maybe, but I agree with you. We shouldn't even really be considering that. But, for somebody who has to see it in skin color like Brandon Johnson, you kind of need a baseline or something to work from, right?
Okay, I will accept your explanation, but I wouldn't, not completely, but I'll accept it somewhat.
Well, and for those of you watching, we hope that you will also accept our explanations on all this stuff. It's a pretty crazy world out there. But they are coming for our liberty every day. And, so if you're watching and before the next show, think about what you can do to advance the cause of liberty in your community, because, well, I tell you, there's people out there who are looking to encroach on your liberty, whether it be in racial hiring practices in the government or whatever. There are things people are trying to do. So see what you can do in your community to advance the ball for liberty. And until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Oh, yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.